It is Friday, August 21st, 2026, coming to you from America's beautiful North Coast, from the shores of Lake Superior. This is The American Descent. I'm your host, Sam Martin.
And I'm Jen Schultz.
Before we dive in, please subscribe to our channel. Hit the like button, leave a comment. It all helps as we begin our journey here on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast, please leave a 5-star review. Thank you ever so much. On today's show, we are now at war with Iran. Still, though now it's an economic war, according to the Trump administration. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said, quote, "We are going to all of our allies, and this is going to be the greatest coordinated economic isolation in the history of the world," unquote. He said that countries will be judged as either being with us or against us. China has already opposed this move, so I'd argue that it's probably already meaningless. Look, I'm no expert on the region, but hasn't the last 50 years been a continuous crippling economic war on Iran? And what about Cuba? The U.S. has stopped nearly anything from coming in or out of the island nation, leading to widespread continuous blackouts, shortages, and misery, just a handful of miles from the U.S. mainland. Just yesterday, the U.S. announced a new round of sanctions against the small nation. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, of Cuban extraction, is well known for his hostility to Cuba, and his leadership in the U.S. against Cuba has been particularly cruel. Speaking of U.S. cruelty, the small West African nation of Liberia has now accepted their first batch of U.S. deportees as part of their agreement to accept up to 1,200 of them. This group is mostly made up of migrants from Venezuela and Cuba. These people have no ties to Liberia or Africa more generally, and it is unclear what will happen to them now. This isn't new for the United States. The Trump administration has been using this tactic of sending people seeking refugee status to unrelated third-party countries in order to avoid illegally sending them back to the country they're fleeing, while still removing them from the United States. Staying in Africa, an outbreak of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of the Congo is, according to the United Nations, growing exponentially. It has killed more than 2,500 people in the last 3 months, with over half of those dying just in August. Overwhelmed healthcare workers are not being spared. So far, 160 of them have contracted the disease themselves, with 43 succumbing. The affected region is very large, and there are obvious concerns about spread beyond the DRC. In better news, a jury failed to convict 8 of 9 Palestinian rights protesters in the United Kingdom, setting them free after an astonishing 18 months behind bars pre-trial, which is highly unusual in British jurisprudence. Only one guilty verdict for criminal damage was reached by that jury. These 9 are part of a larger group of protesters known as the Filton 25. Some of the 25 broke into a factory run by Elbit Systems Limited in the town of Filton and began destroying equipment, including drones. Elbit Systems is one of the chief drone suppliers for the IDF in Israel, and it's believed their systems are responsible for an untold number of Palestinian deaths. Another group of 5 defendants who damaged a branch of Barclays Bank — Barclays is a major shareholder of Elbit Systems — they have been found guilty, but according to the judge, they will not be sentenced under terrorism laws. This is an important moment as the UK government has attempted to tar all of these activists as terrorists, in a very similar manner to how the United States has tarred immigrant rights protesters as terrorists, especially in Texas. Lastly, in the California special election to replace the disgraced Eric Swalwell, the progressive Aisha Wahab has now built up enough of a lead to officially win the contest with 95% of the vote reporting. After facing down yet another torrent of AIPAC money, Wahab will become the first ever Afghan American in Congress. This election was to finish out Swalwell's term, so Wahab will have to get right back out to the campaign trail for the election in November. These headlines and more up for discussion on today's Dissent. So, Jen, it looks like you're coming to us from different environs.
I am. I'm on the shores of Lake Michigan and not Lake Superior.
So, southern
still
UP.
the Great Lakes, but yeah, the southern UP, so I'm with the Yoopers is what they call themselves. Yoopers.
That's right.
The northern part,
Yoopers.
for people not in the Midwest, northern part of Michigan that actually is attached to the state of Wisconsin. So it's kind of it's their own state,
I feel like I'm missing out. I've never been to I've been to Michigan, but never to the UP.
It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. Anytime you're on the shores of Lake Superior, but it's a big kept, well kept secret. We don't want everybody moving to the Great Lakes, but it is gorgeous up here.
Right. Well, at least in terms of Democratic voter turnout, the UP was largely Abdul El-Sayed country in that primary election.
For the Democratic primary, yes,
right.
This is true.
But I know it's pretty dark red conservative there.
Yeah. But I'm not by a lot of people. I'm mostly by cedar trees. So I'm very remote here.
Well, most of the UP is pretty remote. I guess is Marquette the biggest city up there?
I guess it is Marquette. I'm closer to Escanaba, where I'm sitting in my cottage right now. But yes, it's very isolated, very rural. But the people, regardless of what party they are, they're all friendly. It's just really nice to be here where, all the neighbors depend on each other because it's so remote.
Yeah. No, I get that there's a similar kind of feel, when I'm in rural Minnesota smack in the middle of the state, you get that same kind of feeling. But
yeah, so I have not listened to any news today because I've been kind of unplugged, but also in back-to-back meetings. So you're going to be informing me as well. I only have a couple of things to share. So what should we talk about first?
Well, I mean, not to be too election pilled or just talking about politics, but that's kind of where, it's easy to get there because these midterms are so damn important, and everything that's happening politically is so incredibly important. And I think it's been good to keep looking at how these various candidates handle these questions or do these or deal with these various issues and kind of like discuss what's working and what's not. I want to be a little bit fair, since I've been pretty harsh in my criticism of David Crowley in Wisconsin. There's some polling that came out today, but also he's laid out what he wants to run on, which is pretty good. So I want to just read this bullet points. He did an interview, and here are the bullet points of what he wants to be running on. Notice the lack of a particular issue we've been harping on, but these are all good. And and by the way, it's like I've been very critical of David Crowley. I still want David Crowley to win. I want that for Wisconsin, but I just am worried that politically he's not doing the right things. But these are good.
I drove through northern Wisconsin on my way to the UP, and I saw lots of Tom Tiffany signs. I didn't see any David Crowley signs, unfortunately.
Well, that's that's
it's his district, so it makes sense.
Yeah,
but still,
that's Tom Tiffany country. From half the drive, halfway across the state in northern Wisconsin, is Tiffany. So that's a huge the geographic area of his congressional district in Wisconsin is very, very large, but it's a lot of land, not a lot of people.
Right.
But, so fund childcare in public schools. I mean, that's pretty standard issue for Democrats, but good. Expand health insurance, raise the minimum wage. That's good. Not everybody runs on that. Repeal right to work, which has been a huge problem for Wisconsin, and it's good that he's addressing that. And then repeal Act 10, which is what stripped collective bargaining rights from state employees, which, if you remember the protests from 2011, the huge, massive protests in 2011, that was Act 10, which stripped everyone but, I think, police and firefighters from collective bargaining rights as public employees. So those are important things to run on, and they can only happen if the Democrats win a trifecta. They have to win control of the House, the Senate, and of course Crowley has to win, because they have had a Democratic governor, but he's had a completely Republican-controlled state legislator the entire time.
They call Wisconsin, it's an assembly in Wisconsin, not the legislature, but yes.
Well, this assembly and the Senate, right, make up the legislature? Or am I wrong? Okay.
I don't know. They just refer to it as the assembly.
All right.
Anyway, but no, I mean, these are many strong union topics, items that are on his list, which may be why he's still supporting data centers, because the building trades are supportive of data centers.
That could be. I mean, I still think, and I'm gonna flip to Michigan here in just a moment, but the reason why is doesn't matter, considering that it is a massive, political cudgel that Tom Tiffany can and is using against him. Even though, as we've said, every time we brought this up, it's incredibly hypocritical. I mean, Republicans are very much broadly in favor of data centers. Trump has announced many times from the White House that he wants to be the data center president, that he wants to be the AI president, the crypto president. He's a crypto billionaire. And Jen, the deeper I've gotten into that Nerd Reich book that I keep mentioning, oh my goodness, it all makes so much more sense now how things have gone. And like the whole wanting to take over Greenland thing, that's all related to these Silicon Valley, creepy ass billionaires, and Peter Thiel chief among them. So, and also what Jared Kushner's up to in Gaza. It's all tied to this idea of having these like futuristic tech cities with no laws. They're completely run by these tech billionaires from Silicon Valley. That's what they want to do in Greenland. That's what they want to do in Gaza. And that's what they want to do in rural parts of California, despite the public saying absolutely not, absolutely not. But there's actually a strange Minnesota connection to all this now. There's news broke this morning in Minnesota, and I'll get back to this in a moment. But I know this is a bit of a diversion, but this is important stuff, because what's backing these AI data centers? What's backing crypto? All of this stuff is connected. All of this stuff is connected. And all of this money that's being pumped. Yeah, AIPAC puts a lot of money into these races, but the number one corporate funder of our elections right now is crypto.
Yep.
Which is the same people as AI. It's the same people. And they have this utopian image of these beautiful futuristic tech cities that are untouched by democracy. They're all vehemently anti-democracy. And they think that democracy is what's ruining the world, and that the worst things in the world are liberal institutions, universities. They're extremely against universities. They're really against the media, the press, just in general. So it all kind of ties together.
But these are the same bros or guys that are against humans, about human life. They want us to become humanoid, robot humanoids. I mean, do we really want this group of guys to be making these big decisions and deciding what the future of the world is? I mean,
they are now. They've completely bought Trump. I mean, that's why does Trump do what he's doing? It's because
it would be a disaster if these guys got their way.
And they made J.D. Vance. I mean, J.D. Vance is entirely a creature of this. So people keep saying that, well, if Trump were to die and J.D. Vance take over, things would get maybe more normal. It's like, no. No, because then Peter Thiel would be in charge of the U.S. government almost entirely. But the reason there's a Minnesota connection is news broke this morning. That, remember, okay, so I like sports, and I love my Minnesota teams. And the Timberwolves recently, they were sold. There was an agreement to sell the Timberwolves years ago, and then it got slowed down and bogged down, blah, blah, blah. Well, eventually they did get sold. And the main two faces of that sale were Alex Rodriguez, the former New York Yankee, He's kind of become the face of the ownership group of the team, but the primary, owner in terms of like the pockets, the money, and all that stuff was this guy named Mark Lowry.
Mm.
Now, this morning it was revealed that Mark Lowry is no longer in that position. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, this other guy, Mark Stad. I'm saying that because if you say his name too fast, it sounds like I'm talking about Mark Lowry's father, Mark Stad. But this guy named Mark Stad is now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the primary owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves. So what happened with Mark Lowry? Well, he's in this book. He's one of these guys trying to set one of these utopian, anti-democracy cities
so
somewhere
what,
in the
he
middle
wanted
of
to
the country.
sell his shares, make money?
Well, he's still involved. I mean,
okay.
he's still a stakeholder in the Minnesota Timberwolves. But here's the problem, and this just happened with the Los Angeles Lakers. The guy running them, or the guy who owned them, only owned them for a handful of months before he had to sell. And by the way, who did he sell to?
Kushner.
Bingo. It's because these guys are all wrapped up in all this stuff.
Yeah.
All of this is fake money. All of this AI money, all of this startup stuff, it's all paper money. It's all, well, not paper money in the sense that they actually have dollar bills. It's money on paper.
They've borrowed the money to buy the team. Money that they may not be able to pay back if crypto sinks or their AI tanks and they lose all of their equity and right. Mm-hmm.
Right, because it's all based on market capitalization, not on actual dollars.
Right.
So if these startup companies, and remember, most startup companies that are successful because some other company buys them up and shutters them.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about this investment goes in, this company becomes a unicorn because the hype gets so big that enough people believe in it. Then some major, massive company buys them up just so they don't have to face competition and shutters them.
So why do people care about who owns the Timberwolves?
Well, I don't know that people should necessarily care about who owns the Timberwolves, but what's going on with sports team ownership and all these kind of things is it's all connected to what's going on with how AI has infested our politics, how crypto has infested our politics, because it's all the same damn people. It's all the same people. And I just thought it was a point of interest for Minnesota that Mark Lowry, who still has a stake in the team, but is no longer the principal owner, is part of this, kind of cult of anti-democracy, set up a, random ass city somewhere. I couldn't believe it when I read his name in this book. I didn't know much about him. I just knew he was another one of these, startup type bros. But when you have a lot
of money, these guys with a lot of whatever, fake money or money on paper, it's fun to own a sports team. So they're overpaying for these teams. What happened with the Lakers, they overpay because it's hard to set a value on owning a team, right? It's whoever is the highest bidder because they think it's cool to own a sports team.
Valuations of especially basketball teams have shot up. I mean, they've been high for football teams for a long time, but basketball, the NBA recently has had this absolute massive shoot. Like when Lori and Alex Rodriguez, agreed to buy the Timberwolves, it was for a price of like $1 billion or something. But there was this agreement to do it slowly because the previous owner still wanted to hang on for a while. I don't know, but he set up this slow transition period. But then he tried to back out of it because after 2 or 3 years or however long that transition period was, the team was then worth $3.5 billion. So this old guy who is like, wait, I want more money. But of course, he'd already agreed to the original selling price. So the courts ruled against him. But the point is that, it's massive inflation in all of these things. And there's entirely the possibility. I mean, Mark Lowry's excuse is that, I'm busy with all these startups and I just don't have the time to focus on the team to do the best things. But who believes that shit? I mean, honestly, that's like Elon Musk saying, I'm so busy. I've got X, I've got SpaceX, I've got this and that and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, he does this whole Doge thing with all that other stuff going on. Nobody believes these people. They can do whatever they want. It doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, are they trying to create companies? Because Mark Laurie, I think his first fortune came from diapers.com, which was one of these, which actually tried to hold out against Amazon. That's just one of the strange stories, because Amazon decided they wanted to destroy diapers.com. So what Amazon did was basically sell diapers at way, way, way below market rate, and diapers.com couldn't keep up with it. Eventually they wound up selling to Amazon anyways, even though they did try and hold out. Good for them. But then, of course, once Amazon had the monopoly on selling diapers, what happened to the price?
That's the name of the game. That's what they do. So, hey, here's how it ties into how this affects people, our listeners. Okay, so these folks overpay for some of these teams because they're just not bringing in enough revenue to cover the expense of owning them or whatever. So what do? They increase ticket prices. So now instead of, maybe being $100, now it costs $500 to take your family to watch a game in bad seats. Because they have
really
to make
expensive
money. They have to bring in the revenue to justify what they paid for the team and to get any type of return on their investment. So this is how it's going to affect people, is when very wealthy people overpay for these sports teams, it's eventually going to hit all of us, because to go to that game to see it live, you're going to have to pay a heck of a lot more money.
Yep. And by the way, the Target Center where the Minnesota Timberwolves play is an old building. It's not a good place. It's gross. It's dingy.
No, aren't they ever? I think they've already been to the state capitol asking for money for a new building.
Well, they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
They want a new building.
Mm-hmm. It feels like we just built that Target Center. I feel like it can't be that old.
Target Field is the new one.
But even Target Center I remember. Yeah, it just doesn't feel that old.
Well, it's pretty old, and with respect to the whole rest of the NBA. And it's not a great building, but if they move forward, they're probably not going to convince the city of Minneapolis. They're probably not going to be able to convince the legislature to do something. And so they'll probably want to move, if they're going to be funding it mostly themselves, they're probably going to want to move to the suburbs, where they can charge an arm and a leg, not just for tickets, but for parking.
Yep.
And make transportation there really difficult. Yep. And then control what businesses are around their little exclusive, business park or whatever.
Well, yeah, they'll probably own all the land, and so they'll make a profit selling it at a very high price.
And make it less and less and less Minnesota's team. Because
or they'll threaten to leave the state if they don't.
Well, they always do that.
Yeah.
They always do that. But here's the thing about threatening to leave Minnesota. It's a surprisingly big sports market. And their options to leave are not very good. I mean, first of all, they have to get permission from the league to do it, and the league probably won't let them do it. But their options as far as where else to go, especially since LA is going to be creating, or not LA, Las Vegas is going to be creating its own.
We've already lost a lot of teams that started in Minnesota. So,
and a different team comes back. You're talking about the North Stars, the hockey team. Well, I mean, and then the Wild comes in.
The Lakers weren't the Lakers originally from Minnesota? The
Minneapolis Lakers. Yep, they left, and so the Timberwolves. I think 1987 is where they came in, and then the Minnesota Wild, the hockey team, was founded in the late 90s, I think. God, I don't follow hockey, so I don't know as much. But
I can't believe you admitted that on our podcast.
I have never been a hockey person.
I love hockey, so.
Okay, well,
I think hockey's one of the more, you have to watch it live. You have to be at the hockey game, though. It's harder to watch on the
Yes,
screen.
I did. I have been to, when it's live, it's way,
great.
I really enjoyed a live game, but just watching I cannot stand watching.
Okay, now we're way off track, Sam.
We are way off track, but that's okay.
What do I need to know? Catch me up on the
point.
news.
I mean, just to kind of wrap up the sports stuff. I mean, it is important, and the Kushner's buying the Lakers. I mean, Jesus,
Jared Kushner.
I feel bad. Yeah, the brother. I feel bad for LA fans, because it's just terrible ownership. By the way, that same guy owns the Dodgers, and he might have to sell the Dodgers. And then I also heard that that this Mike Ishbia guy that owns the Phoenix Suns and wants to own the Chicago White Sox, he's having, similar financial troubles with, all this paper money kind of extinguishing. And so to follow on from that, I know this is a big diversion from elections, but I continue to, read journalists who are actually digging into the numbers of AI and these things. I read a really ridiculously long article this morning and have another few queued up, just doing a deep dive into the actual numbers of AI and all this stuff. It's called circular funding.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening is all of AI, as far as money goes, is basically the companies OpenAI and Anthropic. They make up nearly all of the AI spending as far as these companies go. So the three big tech companies, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, these are the ones building the data centers. These are the ones spending all this money building the data centers and that infrastructure for data centers. And yes, they want to build them in Michigan and Wisconsin and Minnesota because we have a lot of nice, fresh, beautiful water. And here's the problem, though. Those three companies combined, and a little bit Meta, Facebook as well, but less so. Those three companies combined have spent about $1 trillion over the last few years building out all this stuff, but that's not all the money's been going to. So the only real big clients they have to use these data centers are OpenAI and Anthropic. They're claiming that there's other people using those, but when you actually see the use case, it's like some insanely high number is all OpenAI and Anthropic. Anything else is completely negligible. But here's the thing. OpenAI and Anthropic cannot figure out how to make money. They spend like sailors. They spend like $30 billion in a quarter.
I recall that, was it Sam Altman said that AI is going to tell them how to make money with AI. Wasn't that his quote? I think that was his quote.
If it is, that perfect. That's a perfect quote. Sam Altman is, again, he's just like Elon Musk, isn't that he sets himself up as this kind of tech genius? He's just another VC. That's it. That's his background. It's just funding things until he find one that works. That's all these people. That's all they do. None of them actually know anything about any of this stuff. None of them are actually experts in digital anything. They just know how to throw money at stuff. So OpenAI has been throwing money at this stuff. Other people's money, by the way. They're getting all these investors to come in. But here's the thing. Microsoft has to show that some sort of profit to their investors. They have to show earnings, right? And so that means Microsoft and Google and Amazon, they have to show earnings. So what do they do to show earnings? They say, oh, well, look at how much OpenAI and Anthropic are spending on our data center stuff. Where are OpenAI and Anthropic getting that money? Some of it's from investors, but do you know who one of the biggest funders of them to buy the services of Amazon and Google is? What would you guess? Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. They're giving OpenAI and Anthropic money to pay them to use their infrastructure.
You shouldn't be shocked about this, Sam. I'm not at all surprised. This totally makes sense.
The shocking part is that maybe I shouldn't be shocked, but they're lying to their investors and they're lying to the public about where their money's coming from.
They are driven by greed. They want more money. They want more success. They know that maybe they are going to be in trouble. At some point. And so they have to support their model, their business. And that's how they're doing it.
So there's this, what is that? The joke by economists where it's like, you want to buy a pencil from me, right? And I'm going to charge you $1. You don't have $1. So I lend you $1. Then you buy me a pencil. Then you buy the pencil for $1. Now our gross domestic product is $2, right?
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
That's how Microsoft and Amazon and Google are cooking the books. They're giving billions of dollars to AI, or to these two AI companies, to say, hey, give that money back to us as payment to use our stuff. And then they're saying, look at how much money is coming in.
Mm-hmm.
They're cooking the books, folks.
And that's how they're trying to raise more capital, venture capital money.
It's all capital expenditures. There's no revenue.
Mm-hmm.
The revenue.
That's why people are shorting AI, right? You said, what's his name is shorting AI. He's already done that.
The Big Short guy, the subject of that book and the movie, The Big Short, is shorting AI again.
And I mean, the stock market lost 700 points yesterday. I don't know how it's doing today, but I haven't looked whether it's the AI sector, but I mean, with the bond market unstable, people are worried.
And part of the reason the bond market is unstable is because there's so much goddamn borrowing going on and has been going on connected specifically to AI. It's been driving bond market prices crazy. All this trillions of dollars on this crap. And there's no revenue. There's no money actually going in anyone's pockets in terms of value. They're not creating value. They're creating a sinkhole. And they're going to drop the whole country into the sinkhole. They themselves, these individuals running these things, they're going to be fine financially. They're making money hand over fist right now. And even if the whole thing blows up and falls apart, they're not going to lose any. They're going to be fine.
No, they'll have sold all their stock already. And
they've built up a huge, war chest for themselves anyways of money that's still not connected to this. It's sick. And these politicians, by the way, and there's a couple of sections of this book that I think are absolutely worth reading on air at some point, but the whole nature of all of this stuff is politically conservative. I mean, these people, the whole theory behind how crypto works, especially, but also how AI is going to work and all these things, it's specifically politically conservative. I mean, they're building these things, these tech things that, they say pretty things like, oh, it's going to help everybody. It's going to free people's time and blah, 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 blah. They say all this stuff. But really what they're going after is an incredibly deeply conservative, even dictatorial belief that democracy is bad and that this technology is going to save us from the teeming masses, which means us. They want this stuff to create this utopia for them where, all of us, unwashed masses are just, I don't know, grist for the mill. It's really disgusting stuff. And that's another reason. And Americans are starting to see how they're being treated by these companies and by these CEOs. And that's part of the reason this has become so salient in politics.
People don't want to read an entire book because we know that people don't like to read anymore, some people. But the journalist that's writing a lot about this is David Wallace Wells, and he's got some really good articles or opinion pieces in the New York Times. One is called AI Hype is Running into Reality, What a Hedge Fund's $35 billion Loss Reveals About the State of the Industry. Then he interviews the author of The God Test, Robert Wright, about the only way to keep the world safe from AI. So he's trying to call it out and saying, people, wake up about AI.
Right. Well, I don't know that book in particular. I do know that I am very concerned about hype, which is where the critics of AI says, oh, AI is so spooky and dangerous that, it could destroy humanity and stuff like that, which is unfortunately and ironically, it's helpful to the AI companies because it makes their investors think, ooh, it's the real thing. If it could destroy humanity, then it could make us a lot of money. But so I caution people when they hear these kind of, outrageous claims. Now, there are some things that are believable about bad things.
I don't think he's coming from that. He's the author of several books about climate change and global warming. So he's coming from the aspect of building out these huge data centers and what that means to our energy consumption, the warming of the environment, and the reduction of water. And so that's what, migrating in great numbers. So he read his books, but also read these articles because AI and data centers have a huge implication on the ability for humans to survive on this planet.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that is at the heart of some of the worries. It's not what is AI going to do to us. It's what is our investment in AI going to do to us. That's much more concerning. So yeah, the environmental impacts of all this. But as far as if you want to know if you want to know where to go to get these like absolute insane deep dives on the actual numbers and graphs and spreadsheets and all this kind of stuff, Ed Zitron puts all of this together, and most of his articles are free. Some of them are behind a paywall, but a lot of the ones that, like most of the important ones, that'll actually fill you in on what all the numbers are in terms of where the funding is going and all this kind of stuff. And he does deep dives and he gets leaked reports all the time. And he's really in the middle of all of this. So Ed Zitron and his blog, Where's Your Ed At? But that's why I think this issue is so salient. And that's why I keep harping on these politicians that don't recognize it or aren't doing enough to run on it. Now, having said that, polling has come out in the Wisconsin governor's race from TIPP. So this is not a TIPP is a well-known polling firm. Now, I'll tell you, Jen, there's a lot of undecideds in Wisconsin. So right now, among likely voters look better for David Crowley. So likely voters is 47 to 43. David Crowley over Tom Tiffany. So that's a 4-point spread there. Registered voters. David Crowley leads 43 to 41.
That's pretty okay. This is actually good news because he doesn't have a lot of name recognition. Not a lot of people know anything about David Crowley outside of his Milwaukee area. So these numbers are good because the numbers will probably go up if not there's no scandal or anything coming out on David Crowley. He just can't screw up.
I got to add this. A Republican paid for the poll.
Oh, a Republican paid for the poll?
Yeah, so that's even better.
But maybe they want to scare people and say, you better donate to Tom Tiffany. You better go out and, do grassroots organizing for the Republicans.
Yeah, that's the problem with these paid for polls. You never know what the
That's why we shouldn't
even
even talk about them. And there's this, I forget which state was it, that this polling firm basically made up their results for a poll. We should cover that on next week. But they totally made it up. Didn't even do the poll.
Yeah, that was one of these polls in Wisconsin showing Francesca Hahn up 22 points. But that was also they also did a poll in the mayoral race. Yeah, just completely made up. It's some 21-year-old kid.
So let's be cautious about what polls we talk about on this show.
Right. But I mean, TIPP is a well-known pollster. I mean, they're not nobody, but the poll was done. It was sponsored by a Republican. So, I do want to take a look at a couple of other political related things. I'm glad we did that little diversion.
We always have to get AI in every show, don't we? It seems like we're always talking about it in every show.
Well, it's super. I mean, my God, it's super important, and just understanding all the connections is that's why this Gil Duran book, The Nerd Reich. Everybody, check it out. Find interviews with him if you don't want to read. There's a lot out there. He's been making the rounds and all this kind of stuff. But on this issue, I want to stay on AI and data centers. I want to turn to the Michigan race. So, David Sirota is a journalist, a lefty. He's been in the trenches for a very long time. He started up a news organization called The Lever in 2020. And so Lever News just reported a day or two ago that Mike Rogers, the Republican running for Senate in Michigan, and his wife are knee-deep in AI data center funding. They're getting lots of money from AI data center people. And shortly after that report came out from The Lever, Mike Rogers said that he would support a 1-year moratorium on data centers in the state of Michigan. Now, worth pointing out, he's running for Senate, which doesn't do state policy. So it's kind of a nothing burger. But you can imagine, since Abdul El-Sayed, unlike David Crowley, can jump all over this because he's been a critic of data centers for his whole campaign. And so I'm gonna play a little hit that Abdul El-Sayed did on MS Now, where they're talking specifically about this Mike Rogers part of it.
Opponent Republican Mike Rogers is calling for a one-year moratorium. This is new. Why do you think? Tell us about, for people who are just tuning into this race and trying to understand how this issue is playing in states across the country, how is that going to sit with the people of Michigan? Where do you stand on it? How are Michigan voters digesting this issue?
Let me just step back and set this up. This comes just a couple of days after there was some really embarrassing reporting in Lever News about the fact that this guy and his wife are knee deep in investments in the AI industry. And the article was specifically about how much money they might make from a data center bonanza with this no holds barred approach that we've got right now. And so he's at this press conference where he's touting all 8 Democrats who support him in somebody's front yard. And he gets asked by a really smart, enterprising local reporter, Craig Mauger, from the Detroit News about his position on data centers. And the man clearly hasn't actually thought about his position on data centers because he does whatever Donald Trump or the corporations tell him to do. And he's like, I think we should take a pause. And then his team, trying to make up for the fact that he just made policy from the hip because he hasn't taken the time to think about it, issue a press release calling for a statewide moratorium. But guess what? He's running for U.S. Senate, meaning he can't actually do anything at the state level. These aren't serious people. These are corporate shills who are bought off by the companies who stand to benefit at our loss. And he's stuck, again, between what the voters actually want and what Donald Trump and the corporations who control him want. And so he's shooting from the hip because for him, he'd rather not actually answer questions. This is what happens when he doesn't dodge. He took one question and it ended up in like policy turmoil. So this clown car of a campaign trying to tout their support from Democrats gets caught not having an actual position, proposes a position they can't actually do anything about, which is contrapositive to what he actually has said his entire campaign and what he benefits from. So all of that is to say that at the end of the day, if we're not serious about getting money out of politics, we're not going to be serious about solving real problems.
That's all well and good, but what are people going to remember? It doesn't matter that he doesn't control state policy, Mike Rogers, that he's running for U.S. Senate. It matters that they heard he's asking for a moratorium, a pause on data centers. That's what they're going to remember. So it is about
I don't
messaging.
know about that.
For sure. Yes. No.
He got caught.
They're not going to know all the details. The big headline that they're not going to read the full article is that Mike Rogers wants a pause on data centers. That's what's going to be in the headline. His operatives know that because, I mean, they came in and cleaned it up afterwards when he made that statement. And it's going to win. It's a big win for him.
You think this is a win for Mike Rogers that he got caught taking huge amounts of money?
No. I'm saying that it wasn't so Abdul is saying that he made a mistake and he shouldn't have said that from the hip. Like he made that comment because he hadn't consulted with his team yet or whatever. I mean, he's really probably does believe there should be a state moratorium on it. But that statement is going to be associated with Mike Rogers and people are going to believe they're going to think he's against data centers.
Well, maybe. I mean, it's Abdul El-Sayed's job to disabuse them of that notion.
It's really hard to do that when you have to talk about all the details and they took funding from here and there. And, it's harder to correct that message.
Well, maybe, but I think in a campaign where, all campaigns narrative matters, and Abdul El-Sayed has built the narrative of being against data centers for months now, and people know that's associated with him.
And that's why Mike Rogers made that statement when he was asked by that local reporter,
right?
Because he knows the public is not behind.
He's trying to blunt that attack, and so
exactly.
Abdul El-Sayed now has an opportunity to attack him for he took this position now after this embarrassing story came out. And you can make a good ad about that. But Mike Rogers does not want to be talking about AI. Oddly, I mean, you'd think that this entire campaign, and Mike Rogers has spent a lot of time being Islamophobic and talking about El-Sayed's name and how he's the scary Muslim and blah, blah, blah. That is a big part of this campaign. But here's, I'm going to play you an ad that Mike Rogers put out. I don't think this ad is going to do for him what he thinks it's going to do, Mike Rogers. But I'm not going to say anything more. I just want to get your opinion of the effectiveness of this ad because this is a very interesting ad.
I advocate for a government takeover of health insurance because health insurance offers no value What Medicare for All does is it does away with the private insurance market. Because instead of having a whole bunch of payers, you have one payer, and that is the federal government. Medicare for All guarantees you a public health care plan and eliminates your private one. Medicare for All comes in and says, no more of this insurance industry, one insurance, and that is the government of the United States. What you have is the state operating as your insurance company. It is going to require taxes, and the question of how much of those taxes we would ask working Americans to pay. I think it's important that from the political economy perspective, that everybody pays a bit in.
Well, I will say this, Sam, that's a terrible ad for Rogers. I mean, it's good for Abdul because guess what? Guess what's really unpopular right now? Private health insurance. Freaking people hate it. All these polls are coming out. Republicans are getting told you need to beat up on health insurance companies because no one likes their health insurance company. And so what does Mike Rogers do? Puts an ad for Abdul beating up private health insurance. This is great. I hope they keep airing it.
That is exactly what I thought when I saw that. I couldn't believe it when I saw that.
Even the tax thing, right? I mean, basically, yeah, you got to
pay a little bit in.
Pay a little bit less than your premiums.
Less than what you're paying now.
People. Yeah, less than what you're paying now.
Less than what's being taken out of your paycheck
At
now.
the same time, Republicans, there's way more government intervention into markets right now. I mean, frick, the government owns 15 companies, right? Partial owner, 15 companies. So the government being involved in health insurance, it's not as scary because you see Trump getting involved, getting the government involved in the markets.
This is not the footing from which I wouldn't think this is the footing from which Mike Rogers wants to run this campaign. He wants to be talking about health insurance in this campaign? I wouldn't think so, but
Democrats are going to be using healthcare to drive the wedge. What's the difference between Democrats and Republicans? Republicans are the ones that made your healthcare more expensive. Your health insurance premium is more expensive, and why your local hospital might be closing in a rural area. Blame Republicans because they are cutting Medicaid funding for those hospitals.
And what I think this ad can also do is help down ballot Democrats in Michigan team up with Abdul El-Sayed and make this case. I think this helps not just Abdul El-Sayed. I think this helps Democrats statewide because now they can have this unified front of these horrible insurance companies that are, raking you over the coals. Yeah, and by the way, in that little interview clip I played, Abdul, it was in the larger context where he's being asked about this group called Democrats for Mike Rogers. Mm-hmm. And Abdul's like, those 8 Democrats. Yeah, it's like 8 people or something. It's some small handful of people who are obviously getting paid a lot of money to do this. But yeah, their main complaint is they're against Medicare for all. That's the Democrats for Mike Rogers. So maybe that's why Mike Rogers, maybe
I don't know.
He's
the
a little
good thing
delusional.
Is he paid a lot of money to air this ad for the consultants to create the ad. And hopefully it was all money that, wasted, and he'll pull the ad. He'll probably pull the ad, but he's already spent all this money. So that's good.
Yeah. And it was a Mike Rogers
bad ads.
Yeah, it wasn't independent expenditure. It was from his campaign. It said so right on the screen.
Usually because it's a lot cheaper for no, I guess it won't matter anymore. It used to be cheaper for
not with the amount of money
now with the new
flooding in.
Right.
Well, yeah, and that the state party can get the same deal now and unlimited donations.
Right.
That's right. Yeah, that's the new thing. Good to remind us of that.
Anything else on elections? That the California race, has it been called yet, or
yes,
it has been called? So Aisha has got enough votes. Okay.
Yeah, she has about a 6,000 vote lead, and they only anticipate a little over 5,000 votes left to count.
So she will be their next member of Congress.
She is their next, will be. I guess she'll be sworn in right away once the count is made official, because this is to fill out the rest of a term. But unfortunately for her, she has to get voted in again on November 3rd. So it's like right back to the campaign trail, just like that race in Pennsylvania. I was looking up news.
But she got all this free press because she was the front runner. So that should be an easier election.
It should be, yeah.
And plus, it's a very blue district.
And she was able to fight off this absolute torrent of money that came in for Hernandez. She, because obviously she had to come out of a jungle primary first. she got something in the jungle primary. She got like something in the mid 40s. I don't remember exactly, but then Melissa Hernandez got 17% in that jungle primary. So that's just the power of money. I mean,
Okay.
to have that kind of a lead.
So is the next race to watch the special in South Carolina on the 25th?
That's the next race you might want to watch.
Okay.
I'm not as interested in that one.
What else is coming up for people?
It's just that and those specials in Oklahoma we talked about last week. That's what's coming up on Tuesday. And then in September, I think the biggest one, and I'll have to do a little more research, but I think the biggest one in September is the Ed Markey Seth Moulton race in for Senate in Massachusetts. And there are primaries in New Hampshire that are worth checking in on as well. But for sure, Massachusetts is going to be one to watch, because that's where most of the time when we've had these leftist insurgent candidates, been a young person running against an older person. Now, I wouldn't call Ed Markey a leftist insurgent, but he's definitely an ally of the left in the Senate. And the guy running against him, who is significantly Ed Markey is very old. The guy running against him is a lot younger, but he's much further right. So this is similar in structure, if you will, to the race in Connecticut's 1st district, where John Larson, who'd been in Congress for forever and was really, really good on Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and those kind of things. He's not a leftist, but he was friendly to the left, certainly on those kind of issues. Well, he got beat by a guy to the right of him who's just, 30, 40 years younger than Larson. So that's the dynamic going on in Massachusetts. But yes, I want to stay with one more election-y thing, because as, that race that flew completely under the radar in Florida for the Senate, Angie Nixon, as she's getting introduced to the world, we're finding out. I said, I had no idea if you remember, I told you on Wednesday, I had no idea how she was in contentious interviews. Well, she's been making the rounds on national media, and every national media appearance for someone on the left is a contentious interview. Every single one. And Kristen Welker, who hosts Meet the Press, I don't know if she does a daily show for NBC. I don't know if it's always called Meet the Press. Maybe it is, because there's a little sign that says Meet the Press there, but I think of that just as the Sunday show. But anyway, she goes on to Kristen Welker's show. And before I'm starting this clip towards the end of the interview, but throughout this interview, Kristen Welker is just picking, some of the most controversial, I guess you'd say, aspects of the DSA slate, not their slate, of their platform. So what do you think about, abolishing the Senate? What do you think about abolishing, or defunding the Pentagon, or all these kind of things? So she's asking about all these things. And by the way, you should watch the whole interview, because I think Angie Nixon does an excellent job with all these questions. But here's towards the end of it. And this is where Kristen Welker kind of gives up the game. She is completely uninterested in Angie Nixon's answers. She is completely uninterested in the issues that matter to Florida voters. All she wants is a viral moment out of this interview. And you can tell me if you think Kristen Welker gets it, but I think Angie Nixon delivers a viral moment.
Okay, the DSA platform also calls for drafting a new constitution. Do you support that, drafting a new constitution?
I don't support that, but what I do support is making sure that we're fully following the Constitution, which is everything that Donald Trump is against. We need to make sure that we are enforcing the Constitution and enforcing our laws, and not allowing someone like Donald Trump, who happens to be a 34-count adjudicated rapist, to actually circumvent those things.
Well, it sounds like you disagree with a number of the DSA policy items, while agreeing with some of them, perhaps.
But the main policy items that I agree with, which unfortunately leadership within the Democratic caucuses don't agree with, is making sure that we have access to universal health care, right? I don't understand what is wrong with me not wanting people to go bankrupt if they go to the doctor. There are literally people who are dying because health insurance companies want to deny their claims. They want to deny them life-saving health care. Like, that is wrong. Do we not see anything wrong with these companies doing this? They're only doing this because they want to make a profit.
Why join the DSA if you disagree with various parts of their platform? Does it not just become a distraction from your own campaign and your own agenda?
You all are the only ones that are distracted. I'm actually going out talking to voters about the things that matter to them. And so we should make sure that we're pivoting to the right conversations. The fact remains that there are people.
Come on, that was good.
That's very good. She knows how to pivot. That was really, really good. So she was great. Yeah, I mean, literally, I mean, she also, I'm like, oh my God, do I agree with everything in the Democratic's platform? No.
Exactly.
Most people, no. But you do agree with a lot of it, and that's why you're with the Democrats and not the Republicans or the Libertarians. So why are they going after these DSA candidates about the just come on. There's whatever.
Well, and
I just feel like, yeah, this is the points we should be talking about. Trump, corruption, how expensive healthcare is in health insurance, and people are dying because they can't get their healthcare.
Right.
She's got the passion. She's authentic. It's coming across as super real. She is going to do really well in this race.
Yeah. And I just want to point out, she delivers this. I'm going to replay this. This, I think, is the viral moment. I don't think it looks well for Kristen Welker, but it's certainly a great moment for Angie Nixon. But she gives this very passionate, explanation of how Florida voters are hurting because of all this stuff. And Welker pays no attention. She doesn't respond to anything that Nixon just said. Nothing.
No, she's got the producers in her ear saying, ask this, say this, probably.
I guess so.
She's not even listening to her.
No, she's
Angie
not
Nixon's
listening.
Response.
Right. But then when Angie Nixon, I'm going to replay this, Jen, listen closely, and audience, when Angie says, you're the one getting distracted, listen for the paper shuffling.
I heard that. I thought that was the noise from you. Okay.
No. Yeah. This is Kristen Welker going, oh God. So I'm going to replay this moment. It's so worth, and then we'll get just a little bit deeper into it, because the rest of her answer after that moment is great. I just love this so much.
I join the DSA if you disagree with various parts of their platform. Does it not just become a distraction from your own campaign and your own agenda?
You all are the only ones that are distracted. I'm actually going out talking to voters about the things that matter to them. And so we should make sure that we're pivoting to the right conversations. The fact remains that there are people who are dying because they don't have access to quality health care. Meanwhile, Ashley Moody voted to end the ACA subsidies. As I stated, nearly 300,000 people fell off the Affordable Care Act rolls. There are people who are dying because they don't have access to health care. Also, the fact that Ashley Moody is corrupt, right? She's corrupt. She allowed $10 million that was supposed to go towards the most medically needy kids to be diverted because they wanted to defeat 2 citizen-led ballot initiatives. The status quo is broken. People are losing their minds right now and taking their lives and even taking their children's lives. And the people at the top want to stoke division and want to push this hateful rhetoric. At the end of the day, I have always been about the people of Florida, which is why my campaign is Angie for Florida. I want people to no longer just survive. They deserve to thrive and flourish.
And then
you can tell, as a candidate, you can tell frustrated because these journalists are not asking the right questions. They're not asking things. They're not talking about, why are you running? What issues do you care about? What do you plan to do when you get elected? Stuff that the candidates want and are eager to talk about. And how are they different than your opponent, etc. But this is not what these are not the questions the candidate is looking for.
Well, no, and Welker and the NBC News people absolutely don't care about what voters are going through or what voters want.
No, because it's entertainment. They want to entertain and get more viewers and have viral clips so people go to their website, etc., social
Yeah.
media.
And, and it's interesting because sometimes, every now and then, you find these local news reporters that really do care. And it's neat when you do find those moments where they're so much better than the national reporters. But that's why I think this ecosystem of independent people who are very open and honest about their political biases, that, when these politicians go on, whether they go on to like Hassan Piker's stream, or they go on to or they do a podcast with David Sirota at the Lever News, for instance. I mean, like, obviously David Sirota and Hassan Piker are very open about where they are politically and all those kind of things, but they're capable of delivering very substantive issues that really dive deep into what these candidates are about and what they're running on. And the candidates have an opportunity to really, tell voters what it is that what their program is and what they're trying to do. And those are so much more valuable. I mean, what independent, like just some online person that really cares can do in terms of talking to these candidates and interviewing them. I mean, and, if there are disagreements, that's interesting too. And they'll hash those out and those kind of stuff. But it's not like, wait a minute. But the DSA says on their platform on page 37, paragraph 6, footnote here, it says, but it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I'll go back to that story when I was talking to you and another former state legislator at the Minnesota State DFL convention. We've talked about this before, but a huge amount of time is spent arguing over what's going to be on the party platform. And ultimately, how much does it matter? I mean, it matters a little bit. It's certainly, to some of the people that want to involve in those debates and argue about them and spend a lot of time with them, it's very meaningful. So I asked a bunch of state legislators and former state legislators at the convention, when you were in office, when you were actually being a legislator, how many times did you look at the DFL state party platform? And the answer was laughter. In other words, 0. I mean, it's an organizing tool for the people, for the activists, for the people involved. That's what platforms are. And for the candidates, these organizations, whether it's the Democratic Party or the DSA, they're organizations that provide the support of volunteers, the support of fundraising abilities, the support of an ability to connect to a larger network of people you otherwise wouldn't connect to. And the platform is way down the list of things that are of concern to the politicians that, caucus with or organize with, whether it's the Democratic Party or the DSA or whatever else.
In terms of these organizing parties, I just saw the July fundraising numbers for the Democratic National Party, the DNC, and the Republicans. And the DNC is still in debt, like $16 million. The Republican National Party has over $100 million, and they're affiliated. The MAGA ones has like 400 million. I mean, they have like obscene amounts of money compared to the Democrats going into the 2028 election. It's really scary. So
yeah, well, and this is yet another reason. Thanks for bringing this up, because this is yet another reason that the Democratic Party, should be focused on candidates who are good at retail politicking and organizing people, because they're never going to win the money wars. Not now that, again, read this book, not now that the entire Silicon Valley billionaire base has decided to go all in on Trump and the Republicans. That's
why I'm excited to see these candidates take on money and win. That's just so great to see them win in a primary, at least. We'll see if that can happen in a general. We hopefully will see candidates take on big money and, come out winning.
Well, just the underlying kind of, because there's a school of thought, which, usually is correct, that the underlying economic indicators are far more indicative of what party is going to win than anything else, even candidate quality. Like the most important thing is the popularity of the president at the time of the election, the economic outlook for regular Americans, those two things above everything else. And the president is disastrously unpopular to a degree not seen in modern politics ever, I think.
And so corrupt. And people, I think, are finally getting it. We could probably every day name a new corrupt activity of our president.
That's unbelievable.
Like today, I just read that they're uncovering the ICE gave contracts to a company, and then after they got the ICE contracts, they donated $165 million to Trump's PAC. This company,
Yes.
I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, I'm not shocked, but I'm sure there's a ton of these, tons of this happening, this level of corruption.
How much money? Well, I saw 1.4 million to to a fund.
It
I don't
said,
think it was that much.
Prison firm donated to Trump's PAC. ICE gave $165 million a year in contracts to this company, and then they donated money to Trump's PAC after they got the contracts. It's like
immediately. Yep. Here's $1.4 million to Trump.
They donated $1 million, but they got $165 million. So that's a good deal for them. Hey, they only have to donate $1 million, but they get a $165 million contract.
Well, look at Elon Musk pumped just shy of $300 million into Trump's campaign in 2024. $300 million, Jen, and he is now the richest man on planet Earth. You think that $300 million paid him back? Hell yeah, it did. This is the corruption we're talking about.
Yeah, we should probably every day. We should probably list a corrupt activity every day at the end of the podcast.
Well, yeah, perhaps. I did want to, since I talked about various foreign things in the headline, I did want to, since we talked a little bit about Scott Bessent on Wednesday when we talked about the bond markets. Apparently, his buyback scheme has not really calmed fears very much at all. Like it's not
and it
done
didn't
anything.
Lower, and it only lowered the interest rate by a tiny amount.
Right. And at this point, with what's going on with AI and all these things, I would like, is there a way, Jen, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, is there a way to set different rates for different, entities? Like, why should a home buyer have to suffer really high rates while in order to make rates high for like these AI people that are just borrowing money like literally, I think they're borrowing money like tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.
I mean, the government could write legislation and pass legislation for special loan rates, but they are letting sort of the market decide what the rate should be to strengthen our currency and for people to have faith in it, so the government's not intervening as much. Could that happen? Anything's possible through legislation. Will banks do it? No, because banks are in the market to make money on their investments. And why would they give a loan at a lower interest rate when they can give a loan at a higher interest rate? So what would happen is they would not want to give loans to the people at a lower interest rate unless they were forced to do it.
Right. To regular, regular mom and pop borrowers.
The government would have to lend the money at that lower interest rate. Could they do that? Yes, they could. Just like college student loans, set a lower rate of interest.
So when Scott Bessent's not trying to juice the bond market, which, I mean, he needs to. We can't afford the bond market to go off the rails, but it's not good. I mean,
no, he's not going to be I don't think they're going to get out of this disaster that they've created.
Which is, I mean,
they got to end the war with Iran. They got to get out of that war.
And
to stabilize the market and to lower prices for consumers. They just got to walk away from that, even if they have to pay fees for the Strait of Hormuz. They just have to end the war.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and this announcement now that they're going to economic war with Iran. It's like, when have we not done that? Maybe
that's the runway to end the war. Instead, we're just going to do economic constraints which aren't real, which won't do anything. So we'll see. Maybe that's a runway they need to end the real war.
I mean, because that was the regime before the war.
Listen, if they're getting pushback from the military, they need the military to do
Well,
what
they're
I
getting
think they want to
pushback from
do.
the rank and file, but the
They're
officer
losing
class has been purged to only have the sycophants in there.
Right. But yeah, that's what they don't want to lose is the rank and file. And I think they're losing them with these stories about the USS Lincoln. And I don't know if the George Washington ship that replaces the Lincoln is in any better shape because they've already been deployed for a long time.
No, it's a rolling disaster, and part of me is like, I want these jerks to be hoisted on their own petard. But here's the problem: if they fail, which they're failing, there's no question, it's going to be so harmful for not just Americans, but people all over the world are going to suffer massively as a result of their failures, and their failures are manifest and inevitable. I mean, and it's going to be so painful for so many people. Almost nobody is going to escape this unscathed.
You know what? He really, really hit it out of the park on making America great again, didn't he? I mean, come on. Oh my gosh, it's a disaster. But we got to end on a Friday on a happy note, a positive note, Sam.
We have to?
What do you got? What do you got for me?
Well, I was happy about Aisha Wahab becoming the first ever.
That is good. I just saw that they created a possible vaccine to address skin cancer.
Okay, what
an mRNA? I think Moderna did. So that's good. That could be good news for a lot of people who will or get skin cancer.
If that's true, I heard that this AI people have kind of gotten their hands into Moderna and into this stuff. So I'm starting to get real skeptical about anything that these.
Okay, let's save that for another episode. What do we have on deck for next week, Sam?
Well, we've got we have a very exciting guest scheduled for next Thursday. We'll announce that as we get closer and solidify that happening. But we've got, I know you're very interested in what's going to happen to Lindsey Graham's sister in the primaries in South Carolina. I did see some people making fun of her debate performance. I'm still skeptical that it will mean absolutely anything, but if it does, whatever. Ralph Norman, her opponent in this primary, is as odious as any Republican in there. So it's like, what the hell does it matter whether it's Lindsey Graham's sister, who I keep calling her that because I keep blanking on her name, and Ralph Norman. What difference does it make really at the end of the day? They're both dreadful in terms of policy.
We probably shouldn't spend much time on it. Is it it starts with a D. Oh my God, I'm blanking on
Darlene.
Darlene. There you go. Okay.
Darlene.
Okay, Sam, I got to sign off because I'm in the wilderness and I need to enjoy it.
Well, you go enjoy your wilderness. Lots of good stuff to talk about next week, just because there's just this ever-present hose of news just pointed at us constantly. It's kind of unbelievable how much there is to talk about, and we'll get into it next week. So, on behalf of Jen Schultz, I'm Sam Martin, and this has been Our Dissent.